So let's begin. So what is this bootcamp all about? Well, as I was saying earlier, we're about to learn a very great skill, that is web development with a focus on the front end part. So we'll be exposing you to the various world in the field of web development, how things or how things are done over there, what exactly it is to be a web developer and all that. So these are the things we'll be covering. We're meant to cover all this in a span of the last class and this and today, but we have to squeeze everything up and rush things today. We'll be covering how today in this class we'll be covering how the internet works, an intro to web development, what is front end development, our main focus in this bootcamp. We'll also be setting up our tools, our development environment, what we'll be using to create websites, and I'll also be introducing you to one of the fundamental technology we'll be using, that is HTML. So let's get started. During the week, I sent the slides and I did share some videos about that wanted you people to watch to have previous knowledge, at least to get a bit of scope of what we're going to learn. And one of the videos I shared was how the internet works. I hope you people watched it, but if you didn't watch it, there's no problem. I'll be going through everything. If you watched it, signify in the chat box. Let me see your hand if you watched that one. If you watched it, let me put the emoji in the chat box. Let me see. You haven't watched it. That's great. So things should have been new for you now. Right, let's move on. So I'll be discussing now, we'll start our first discussion about how the internet works. Now this is very, at least you should know this is very important as a web developer, how the internet works. You should know what even occurs safe when I go to my web browser and search for anything. How does all these things work? So one of the things one of the major things about how the internet work is about how there are two things involved, the client and the server. Two things, client and the server. And you might be asking what is the client and what is the server. I'm sure some of it might be new terms to you, and I'll be explaining everything. So let's start with the client. So the client is just your web browser, your mobile phone, any device you use to search on the internet. That's just your client, where you see like a user interface. For example, if I go to, let me search, what is HTML? Currently, what I just did, I'm a client. I just requested a web page from the server, and that's how things work. The client will make a request to the server. I need some certain files. We first At the beginning we first type in whatever we want to search on our search box. So, like for instance, I search what is HTML, and immediately it brought my browser, that's my client, made a request to the server. And if you've not heard of the word request just means your browser told a computer in the cloud, let's say the cloud, the internet, I need this file, get me the result of of what I'm asking you for. Like for now, I asked the server, a server on Google server, because most of the internet run by Google. I asked Google what is an HTML, so my browser sent a request, asked the server for this information. And further learn of how the internet works, there's a concept called the DNS, domain name system. What that means is that any website you go to, for example, if you go to common names like youtube.com, facebook.com, um, anything.com, so are called DNS, domain name system. Those were brought about to 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 make be a replacement to an IP address, because in the beginning time of the internet, there was you could only work with it through what's called an IP address, something like um 192 something something something. A number like this is what we call an IP address. Let me so a number like 192 dot blah 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 dot blah blah blah, what we call an IP address. This is what we commonly don't really see, but this is what we call an IP address. But like six numbers in total, with a decimal in between every three character. That's what we call an IP address. And we also have now what the DNS, the domain name system does. Instead of when you type something like youtube.com, this translates into this 192 something to this IP address. Every website on the internet has an IP address, and also even your devices, your browser, your whatever you name it, your even now you have smart refrigerators. Everything that connects to the internet has an IP address, and that's what you use to identify each device. So sometimes you say, I'm sure you've heard of maybe they hacked somebody's IP address. Just know IP address also has contains information about your location, contains like your location, a bit of information about the device you're using. You can even say, oh, you're using so and so phone, or you're in this location, in this certain geometric location. So these are one of the fundamental of how the internet works. Every device has an IP address, and every website hosted on the internet also has an IP address. And when you search something like example.google.com or youtube.com, those translate into an IP address. Now, when when we or when we make a request, when we start like google.com, what usually happens behind the scene, something called, that's when the server will respond to us. As I said earlier, there's something called a request. We make a request to the server, that when the server responds to us, and usually what the server responds to with is three common files: the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's because that's what every browser understands. Your a server will usually respond with those three files, and it will load them. Respond with the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript. The server will respond with those files, and sometimes a server can be programmed to respond with images or audio self, whatever the case may be. All that matters is that it gives us something back for us to use. Then when the server responds to us with those files, the three major files, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then it renders our browser. Those are programmed to understand those files, those three files, and the browser passes it the word pass. Like the word pass means it, it understands it and it converts everything. It knows what it will show, and it shows everything on the web page. So those are just the major things of how the internet works. To recap, we go to our client server, and our clients, we are usually with the clients, our mobile phones, our laptops, whatever is connected to the internet. We search, for example, youtube.com. Our client makes a request to the server. The server returns us back with info. That is the major files, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. and sometimes the server might return with images, text, whatever you name it. Our server is returning us back with data. So those are one of the fundamentals of how the internet works. So well, let's move on. If you have any questions, you can ask. If you don't, we'll just move on. So let's start the main bread and butter of today. What is web development? So web development is just the process of creating websites and web applications that people can use on the internet through their web browser. As I've been hammering on the point, the web browser is just how people can access, how you create websites or web applications that people can access on the internet through their web browser. That's all about. That is what it's all about. And the web development comprises of two major aspects. Like there are two major fields, which are the front end, which we're focusing on, and the back end. I'm sure you saw the on the registration form. So like front end, back end, UI, data. Those are also fields of that are comprised of to make up web development. But one of the two major parts are the front end and the back end. And the front end, as I was saying in how the internet works, the front end deals with how to program the client, what the user will see on the client, and the back end is focused on programming the server. So the front end is focused on programming what will make a request to the server, and what the back end people do is just to program things of how they will return back to the client. Hope you get that. So we'll start with front end development. Now, this part focuses on what the users interact with, and such as your layout, colors, and everything. Everything you see here. For example, even this place, even this Google Slides. This is what we call front end. Anything you can interact with on your client, the buttons, everything. You search what you use, browser. Everything like this has everything, the results brought back, how everything is structured, how all these are laid out is what we call front end. It's front end development that does everything. These are what a front end developer will do. You could even do some cool websites. It's not could even do some cool website like this. Front end development also involved making cool website like this, have all the animations, things like this, cool website like this. Everything you see here about doing front end development, the UI, how things work, how things move, how what the user interacts with visually. Basic main point, front end, what user interacts with visually, and how to talk to the back end, that's the server. That's all about front end development. You program what the users interact with and how to talk with the server. Two major things about front end development. And the person involved in front end development is called a front end developer. So you might hear of words like front end developer, front end engineer. They all mean the same thing. It's just a person that creates UI websites and web applications that work. And for now, the three major technologies we'll be using what we call HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to create those websites and web applications. All you see here, the fundamental of how they are created is with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Every single thing you see on the browser that you interact with, just created with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, I also want to give you a bit of knowledge about other fields, because it's always good to have idea of what and what, because each of the aspect of web development, we all work together to create a web application. So having a bit of knowledge of what they also do is also important. So the back-end developers, what they do is just majorly programming the server. They build servers as I was saying in the beginning, how the internet works. The client talks to the server. Their backend developers are focused on creating the server. We are front-end developers are focused on creating things that work with the client. That is all. That's all there is to know about it. And the backend developers usually work with common programming language like Python, Ruby, PHP, and JavaScript. And they also handle logic of how data should be sent. Because you can't just because the computer when us from our client make a request to the server, they need to know how things work. Like, there's a logic behind it. You can't just send anything back. There's a particular step-by-step instructions of what should be sent back. And the person involved in backend development is called a backend developer. And there's also what we call a full stack developer. That's the person that knows everything. He likes doing everything. That's the person that knows front end and back end. The person that both programs what to use in the client, and the person that both programs what you use in the server. That's what you call a full stack developer. The person can work on both ends. Now I would like to talk about the process of how we create websites and web applications. How the step by step, how there's usually a, how do I call this? Usually like a step, let me just say, step by step way of how things are done during when you are creating websites and web applications, or even the backend guys, how they create servers and all this. We usually start with the planning. Everything in life you have to plan. It's, there's nothing doesn't change in this aspect too. You have to plan and design. You have to know what you want to create, your target audience, what's your web application, the goals of it, and how it look, and usually how it usually looks is really dealt with people who call like UI UX, the user experience, and user user interface design guys. You might have heard of them, UI UX people. They're always making noise on the internet. UI UX. Their job is to create how your website or web application will look like, how they add colors. They're usually the creatives. So they come up with the design for a web application. The UI developers. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. I'm still admitting people. So that's the first phase, planning and designing. Now the next phase is what we call the development process. That's when we as a front-end developer, once the designer is done with designing, we take the design and convert it to code. Like how it will work on we convert it to be able to work on the website, on the web browser. My bad, sorry, web browser. We convert all the design so it be able to work on the web browser. And how it work on the web browser, we code in, I've been hammering since, HTML, CS, and JavaScript. And also for the backend guys, the development phase for them is how they create for the server. It's create the server functionality of what the website will need and what and the database, because every website has every website has data to show, and usually store it somewhere. And where we store it is called the database. It's just a storage system. Like in your computer now, you can store files, folders, all this. It's the same thing. That's what we call a database. You store things there, all the files you need. The next step of the process is what we call testing. You have to test what you create. You have to make sure it's working properly and it's free from bugs and errors. There are no issues. There are no issues with it. That it's working properly. I don't know if you've used an application, maybe it's not working properly, or there's an issue. Maybe something bent somehow, or something is not sitting right. It's about poor testing, and it's always common when time you get into the field. You see you're always dealing with bugs and errors. Bugs. There's something we call in the programming field we call bugs. Are just something. Bugs are just things that are not meant to be there, like issues with software. Those we call bugs. And moving on, we have the deployment phase. After we created our website, coded it, we programmed it, we have to, of course, we have to take it to the internet. We have to deploy it so that everybody can access to it. Every Everybody can have access to it. So there's a phase we call the deployment phase. That's where we configure different things. As I said, I talked about when I was talking about how the internet work, like the domain name system, the DNS. It's during this phase you assign a domain name system to the program, to the website you created. It's during this phase, during the deployment phase. That's when you assign a domain name to the website you created. And you also make sure your website is stable. And of course, it doesn't end. Even when you've finished deploying it, there's always going to be ongoing maintenance and updates. Every there's always updates to do, maintenance to do. That's even one of the major things we're working on if you work in the field of web development and software engineering. It's majorly maintenance and updates. Might not even be working on new things, but just maintaining and updating. And I'm sure you on your phones, you usually see, oh, like WhatsApp needs an update. This is what's occurring in the background. The WhatsApp team, the engineering team, the development team did some fixes, made some changes, added some feature, and they pushed an update. So that's why every time you see on your phone, nothing's always stable. They're always looking for an update. There's always maintenance. There's always something to improve on the software. The journey of software doesn't end. It continues almost a lifetime. Almost like a human being. You have to be a child. You have to keep taking care of it, maintaining it, grooming it, fixing it, all sorts of things on it to maintain it and updating. And those are the major things about web development. So, to recap, we talked about the planning and designing phase. That is when we sit down together as a software team, talk about what you want to create. We give the designers, they make mock-ups of how the websites and the web application should look like. Then we go to the development phase, where we are the developers, the front-end developers go and create the websites, and the back-end developers go and work on the server. Then we testing. After developing, we have to test maybe it's working properly, sure there is no bugs, there are no malfunctions, there are no errors, there are no issues on the software. Then we ship it to the internet. That's the deployment. Move it to the internet. And finally, there's always continuous maintenance and updates. Always continuous maintenance and updates. It doesn't end. There's always something to change, something to improve, something to remove. I'm sure recently you saw like Twitter. If you use Twitter, they've made an update. Or you use WhatsApp now, I think they shifted before your profile. The profile doesn't really show maybe where you have a status, but now they made an update that you can see on the profile picture, you can see maybe the person posted a status. It's an example of updates. There's always updates going on in the software world. So moving on, we'll start getting our hands dirty now. If you've not, I hope everyone is with their computers, because everyone will start getting to work. So now we're going to set up our development environment, how the software we're going to be using to create websites. You actually need a tool to use to create websites, and we just need two things: a web browser, preferably Google Chrome, and what to call a text editor. That is like the text editor is like document. Like if you use Microsoft Word, yes, something like that for programmers, that we call a text editor. And we'll be using two tools, Visual Studio Code and CodePen. But for now, we will just quickly set up an account with CodePen, because that'll be much easier and all of us can get started immediately. So struggling with setting up things on our computer. So like, if you've done it, you've already set up an account, don't worry, you don't need to set it up again. But if you've not, you can go to, if you check codepen.io, that's the name of the website. So I would like everybody to just get that computer out, go to codepen.io and create an account. Um, if you've done it, you can put a message on the chat box that you've done it. If you've not done it, put a message on the chat box. I'll wait for the next 3 minutes or so. Process is very simple. Just go, you sign up, go to the sign up button, codepen.io. You can sign with your Google account, Facebook, and I will also introduce what we call GitHub. This um, later on in the boot camp, I will introduce you to something called GitHub, the platform for hosting our code. Just like a folder somewhere on the internet where all the developers in the world usually put their software on. But I just like everybody to create your Google email or any other email you have or your Facebook account. Done, right? You have 3 people already done it. Just wait for the next 2 minutes. I'll wait for you. Create an account of CodePen. Head over to CodePen. Sign up with your Google account or any other email you have. 2 minutes. Head over to CodePen and it's on the chat box. The website link. I'll put the link on the chat box. The link to CodePen. You create an account over there. It's very simple and straightforward. You can even do it on your phone self. If you're not with your laptop now, you can do it on your phone. I think it works good well. It will good well with mobile phones too. So you can use your phone too. Done. Just a bit wait like 2 minutes for that to get it done and we'll start work. Head over to again, let me repeat it again. Head over to CodePen, sign up with your Google or any other email service you use. And that's all. Let me log into my account. Alright, I think a lot of people have done it. I think a lot of people, I'm seeing a lot of responses. If you've not done it, we'll still be waiting for you. Like, you don't really have much time, but like next 1 minute, because I have a lot of things to cover today. Next 2 minutes, head over to codepen.io, sign up, log in with your email, your Gmail, or whatever email service you use. It's a very straightforward process. And later on in the course, I'll be introducing a better tool called Visual Studio Code. That one works locally on your computer. What I mean that you install it on your computer and use it, and you can be testing it out. Maybe towards the end of the class, we will have time to go over it and set it up. So let's get started. Let's finally go into the interesting part, the coding part. Now, the first technology we're going to be using is what we call HTML. I said earlier of when we were talking about how the internet works, I said our web browser will make a request to the client, to the server, and the server will return us 3 files: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The 3 pieces of code we need to for any website or web application you see on the internet. That's what they are made of internally: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And we'll be focusing today. Our main focus of today is what we call HTML, and it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And it's just a long name. It's not really too difficult. So what's a markup language? Hypertext markup language. What does it mean? A markup is just annotations or symbols. You define how a structure of something should be. That's all the about there used to be. Just annotations. There are some specific symbols that HTML uses to define this, and all of them have meaning. There are some specific symbols, the annotations. There are some specific annotations or symbols that have meaning. That's how it was built. If you watched a link, I dropped a link during the slide during the on the Slack group. Sorry, I dropped a link on the Slack group about like a 100 seconds video introducing HTML. If you were seen it, it should have been nice. You should have had a bigger context of it. But what HTML is a hypertext markup language. The technology, one of the three technologies we'll be using. What it does is to show the content of your website. That's all HTML does. It does its main purpose is for the structure of the website, your text, your images, the links, any website you go to. For example, here on my Google search, all this text you see, this link, for example, here, if I hover on it, you show a link somewhere. Everything here is HTML, the work of HTML, the text, the links, images. Yeah, those are the major things: text, links, images, and sometimes on some website videos, some audio. All those are the work of HTML. What HTML does is to put those pieces of information on the web page or a website. And I'll be introducing three terms, the three common terms you'll be hearing when you are coding HTML. These are the things you have to know: tags, what we call tags, elements, and attributes. So tags are notations for various contents, as I was saying, which include text, images, links, headings, and more. For example, if you head over to our code pen, let's start it up. If you can't see my name, I think I should be able to increase it. Yes. Can you see my screen better? Can you see it through? I can't even see more. Or should I zoom in more? Let me see if I can zoom in more. So here, this is what we call a tag. This is what we call a tag. A tag, just an annotation, is an annotation. This is what we call a tag, and there are various tags in HTML. You have, for example, this P means paragraph. Is a paragraph tag. What it does is to display text, and we have another tag like the H1 tag. What is an annotation? H1 tag means is an annotation for heading. There are also various tags, a lot of tags. As you go into it, as we will go further in the course, we'll meet various tags, various annotations. This right here is what we call a tag. This means a paragraph. P it starts with just a P, a tag. And if you see, if you've not seen anything like this before, you might see something that they are like angles or what do I call it here? Like greater than and less than signs. They're like greater than and less than sign is around it. That's how you write a tag in HTML. They're usually in between tags. The P, for example, this P annotation is in between a greater than sign and a less than sign. The H1 annotation, which stands for heading, is also in between. This is how it's always structured. There's always a greater than sign and a less than sign. Moving on, we also have what we call an element, which is what this, as I said, this is called a tag. And when you put something like hello there, I put a text context. If I put a content of text named hello there, and all together like this, as I'm highlighting everything, the P, the hello there, and the other P at the end, that we call an element. altogether they form what we call an element. The P opening, we call this, if you notice there are two P's, you see two P. Just like having an opening, and it's what we call this the opening tag and the closing tag. Just like if you are familiar with um, parentheses, you want to write something in brackets or parentheses. You usually have the opening brackets and the closing brackets. It's the same thing in HTML. You have the opening tag, call it the opening tag, and the closing tag. This part is called the opening tag, and this other part is called the closing tag. It's similar to when you're writing, you want to put something in the bracket. You put an opening bracket and a closing bracket, and you write whatever you want to write inside. Just like that's how you see the same thing. You write, you create an opening tag and a closing tag, and in between it you have your content. If you don't understand, as we get deeper, as we get further in the course, we will get hang of it. And there's also something called an attribute. That's just what it means is every tag will have an additional information you can put on it. There's always an additional information you can put on every element. So I was explaining earlier, this is what we call, let me expand this more. Sorry. I'm trying to zoom in. This is called, I told you this is called a tag, and we have the opening tag and the closing tag, and in between it we have a content, and all together is called an element. I repeat it again. We have an opening tag and a closing tag, and inside those tags we put our content, and all together they are called what we call an element. I'll repeat it again. We have our opening tag, which is this one, what I'm highlighting, sorry. Our closing tag, which is this, and our content, which is the text hello dear. This is what HTML is all about. It's three major things: the tags and content, and together we call it an element. Have the tag and the content together, they are called an element. Moving forward, if you have any question you can ask along. Alright, so when you're annotating using HTML, there are some common things, that the major things we are almost 90, at least 90% of the time you are writing HTML code, there will be a common HTML tags we'll be using. I've introduced the heading tags, it's called like the H1. Sorry. H1, opening tag, closing tag. This is what we call the heading element. Together it's like this, called an element. And I introduced the paragraph, that is the P tag, is what we call a paragraph. The P tag is what we call a paragraph. And there's the link element. This is how you write a link. If you want to put a link on HTML. Don't worry if you don't know, I'll explain now. This is called a link. In a link tag is denoted with A, letter A. That's how it's done in HTML. A link tag is denoted with letter A. If you want to put a link on the web page, on a website or a web page, it's denoted with letter A. And what we have here, this href is equals to this over here, which is equals to like 2, what do you call it in English? I think comma, or so if you Can't really remember what they call it in English. Um, just two codes. Let me just say codes, like two codes together. The href equals to those two codes are what we call an attribute. As earlier on, I mentioned there are three terms: a tag, element, and attribute. This what is in between this, what is here is what we call an attribute. An attribute is usually put inside an opening tag. It is which put inside an opening tag. And as we move forward on, you may encounter more attributes. So going over it again, call this the opening tag. At the end, call the closing tag. For the H1, opening tag, closing tag, and whatever you put in between those things, so our content. Hello, there. That's all our content. Now, if you have a sharp eye, I'm sure many of you have noticed that this A. Why does it not have something like? Why is it not written like A? Well, there are some tags in HTML where they are written like this. They are called like a self-closing tag. You don't need to put the ending, the closing tag. They're called self-closing. That means you don't need to put it there. All you just do is / and the greater than symbol. So that's how we write a link. This is called a link tag or a link element. Then if you want to put another form of content, you have the image. You have what called an image element, an image tag. Image is also a self-closing tag. That means you don't need to put a closing tag on it. You just write image, the tag image, and put the / and greater than sign symbol. And also an image also has the attribute called src. An image element or tag has an attribute. So the two elements I've talked about that has attributes are a link tag and an image tag, and you have had the attribute href and src. Don't worry, we'll see how each and everything work. I'm just trying to give you a broad understanding. So let me go over it again. HTML is consisted of three basic terms: the tag, element, and attributes. To write a tag, for example, one of the common tags we have is the p tag. We'll start it by <. P is one of the annotations we have. We have so many annotations with HTML. There's a long list of tables which has all the annotations. As you go further, you meet them. But the common ones are the paragraph which I'm introducing you to now. It starts with P, then you put the greater than sign, then you put again less than sign, a / and a P. This part is called the opening tag, and this part is called the closing tag. Is that clear? Does anybody have any question? Please, can you mute yourself? Oh, sorry. I'll go over it again. We have the opening tag and the closing tag, and in between the opening and closing tag, you put a form of content. It's almost the same like if you're writing in English language, you have opening braces and closing braces. In between, when you're writing something, you usually write like something between the content, like something between them. As our content. The same a bit similar to HTML. We have the opening tag, which is like synonymous to this, the opening braces, and the closing tag, which is synonymous to like the closing braces when you're writing a braces and content, and what is between them is our content. I don't know if we can help you on get that. So we'll start by creating examples of how to use them, how to use these HTML elements. I've been introducing what we call the paragraph. If you want to write the paragraph, let's say, hello everyone. Sorry. I am learning today. That's called a paragraph. That's how we use the paragraph element. Put the paragraph tag. When you want to write the paragraph in HTML, use the paragraph tag. It's just what is meant for is putting text on a web page. Text is responsible for putting text. That's the major purpose of using the paragraph. Text. If you want to write any text on your website, use the paragraph tag. And also, because as I said, HTML has an annotation. There's some tags have some specific purposes. Also, if you want to write an heading, write a heading like heading of a blog, heading of a news headline, anything that is like a major caption, you have a specific tag for that. We call the H1 tag. If you want to write that, H1 means is an annotation for the heading. I'll explain. You start with the opening tag and the closing tag, and we then put our content inside. And let's say for our heading, what the headline of today is, let's say today is sunny. That's the headline. You can see it's a bit bigger than our paragraph. That's the purpose of this. It's heading. Create an heading and also create a paragraph. So I want everybody now on their own computers to try in a heading tag that's the H1 tag. I want to open a H1 tag, put a closing tag of the H1, and put whatever content you want. You can put maybe your name. Like for example, I'll put my own. Start all over again for you to see it. To create a tag, opening tag, you start less than symbol, the name of the tag, which is H1. H1 is responsible for creating a heading on the web page. With the H1, the closing / H1. Close it. But I've created the H1 tag, and in between it, I can put my name. That's how it's done. So I want everybody create an H1 element together. As I said, together we would call it an element. The H1 tag, a content, and together it's called an element. So I want everybody to create an H1 element. You create the H1 opening tag, put the H1 closing tag, and you put your name over there. If you've done it, I would like to see. How did I get the black white page? Sorry. Let me answer your question. Yano asks what does the H1 mean? H1 sorry. Yano responded. H1 means heading. You've seen it. So I want everybody to create an H1 element. You do the H1 tag, the H1 opening tag, the H1 closing tag, and in between it you put your name. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I think I can extend it. That was a mistake. Oh, sorry, I have to recreate it now. That's it. I'm so very sorry, everybody. Oh. Alright. So while everybody is doing that, please, as I said, create an H1 element. And the element consists of the opening h1 tag, closing h1, and your content. That be your name. I would like everybody to do it. Shania Ajunde. I'll be ending the meeting now. We'll check the Slack group. I'll be posting a new meeting link. I think because there's a 1 hour limit for every call. Please everybody do the tags and immediately join the link. Check the Slack group. I'll be posting the new link. Please everybody check the Slack group. I'll be posting the new link now. I'm done. That's what they do. Alright. Let's wait a bit, a couple of minutes before we start again. Please try and do the exercise because that's how you have to you learn. I will say it again. Create an H1 element. To create an H1 element, you start with the opening tag, and to create an opening tag. Don't worry, I will see it. You can. I will. Towards the end of the class, after the end of the class, when you're submitting it, I will give you an exercise to do home. I will show you how you can share your work, and I will be able to, look at what you've done. But all I want you now is create an H1 element. An element starts with an opening tag. That is a sorry, be distracted. Start an opening tag and a closing tag, and in between them you put your content. That is your name. The content will be your name. To create an opening tag, similar to the less than symbol, H1, the greater than symbol. That's how you create it, the opening tag. The content, that will be your name, and the closing tag, less than symbol, /, the tag, the name of the tag you want to use. That's the heading tag, the H1 tag, and your closing, and you put the false greater than symbol to close it up. That's how you create an element. I think we're a bit complete now. Let me share my screen. I think everybody has come back. Good. Right. I think that's that. Let's move on. So I've shown you how to create an heading with HTML. That is, to create an heading, use the H1 tag. Next up, to create a paragraph. I've shown that before too. To create a paragraph, use the P tag. It's called a P tag. Now to create a paragraph element, you open the tag, less than symbol, the name of the tag you want to use. That's P. The paragraph stands for paragraph. You use to create a paragraph. Then you close it up. Open it again. /P. This is how you create the paragraph element. Then in between you put your content, whatever you want to put. For now we'll put, this is my first website. Sorry, that's if I can spell very well. So this is my first website. So I want everybody to create a paragraph. To create a paragraph element. And to create a paragraph element, you use the P tag, which you use to create a paragraph. You open the tag P, close put the ending for the closing part. Then you put your content. You put this is my, and the content will be, this is my first website. I'll go over it again. We'll create a paragraph element. When I refer this is what I call an element. All everything together, the opening and the closing tag with the content is called an element. In the earlier part, we created the H1 element. Sorry, H1, which was content our name. So now I want you to create a paragraph element which will contain the text. This is my first website. So I'll give you 2 minutes to create that. Someone said, "How only see what we have done, magician." Try, and if you've done is put an emoji or anything you've done, so we know, so we can move forward. At least I need like 5 responses if you've done it. If you are having issues, you can unmute yourself or you can share your screen. You can share your screen. If you're having issues, share your screen. We can go through it together. Okay, Iano said done. Okay, we need 4 more people. Please, if you don't understand, please say it. You are all here to learn. If maybe it's not working for you, or there's something you're showing, it's not showing properly, or it's not showing the same way I'm putting my own, just say it. What I want you to see on your what you should be seeing here is your name. My name is Ibude. If your name is Ibude, you can write it there too. And a paragraph element which says, this is my first website. Okay, we have like 5. Well, we have 5 responses. Let's move on. I'll give you another element again. Now, another common HTML element will call a link. As I said when I was talking earlier, I said on a website to have images, text, headings, and also of course you have links to different another website, links to a website, links to different places. Like For example, this is what we call a link. Now to create this, all we do is now you do to create a link. What represents a link is an A tag, an A. That's what represents a link in HTML. A stands for link. Then this one's a bit different from the ones we'll be doing, because a link tag is a link element is a self-closing element. You don't need to put the extra one at the ending like the previous ones, like the H1, where we do the right H1, the backward slash forward slash H1 and the greater than symbol. You don't need to put it. All you do is open how you write your tag, beginning of the tag, the name of the tag you want to use, and for a self-closing tag, all you do is put the forward slash and the greater than symbol. We will call it a self-closing tag. There are two major style of tags you meet in HTML. A normal tag that has a opening tag and closing tag, and what we call a self-closing tag, a self-closing element. So to create a link, sorry, I need to check on something. Guys, always go to what are the common things you'll be doing in coding that you can't remember everything or by hand. You also have to use the internet. You have to be checking the internet. Then one of the common websites you can check is what we call W3 Schools. Oh, I made a mistake. Can you imagine? I made a mistake. I'm sorry. The A tag is also a common tag. It's a real normal tag. Oh, my bad. The link element is also a normal element. The one that is self-closing, the image. Sorry, I mixed it up. The image tag. We'll go over that one later. So made a mistake. So to create a link, you start with the A tag. Create the opening part of the tag A, then the closing part A, and the content what I want to link to. Let's say link to, let's say you want to go to YouTube, or link to your favorite website. Then in between the opening tag, this opening part, you have introduce what we call an attribute. An attribute adds extra information to an element. The attribute to be adding is what we call href. Anytime this had the format of creating a link in HTML. You have the opening A tag, closing A tag, what you want to call your link, the name of your link, and an attribute named href. What href stands for is, I've really forgotten. But what it does stand for is links to another web page or website, or even another part in your own website. So now, as I was saying when I was explaining earlier how the internet works, to link to when you want to go to a website, we usually type like the address, the web address, the domain name, the DNS, also called the DNS, the web address. Now to visit like YouTube, or let's say, let me use YouTube. Use youtube.com. youtube.com. Now, what I'm pasting here is what we call the web address. So, like, to create a link, you have to add the href attribute. And I said earlier that an attribute adds extra information to an element. Now, because we want to go to another place, we have to add extra information, and the extra information we'll add is the web address URL, also called the URL, web address, all mean the same thing. It always start from https://blah.com. So you can go to your favorite website. Like you go to google.com. That's another link. I'll give you an exercise. So I want everybody create a link tag that goes to YouTube. create a link tag that goes to YouTube. If you've done it, put an emoji, because I think on our previous chats here, I'll repeat myself again. Create a link element. To create a link element, you use the A tag, and to create a tag, you have the opening tag and the closing tag. And for special element like this, like the A element, the link element, we have what called an attribute. Let's add an attribute. What we call an attribute. An attribute adds extra information to that element. So the extra information we'll be adding is the website URL or web address, and this is the web address, https. And how to get it? You go to this bar. I don't know if you can see it. You copy it, https :// bar. Copy it and you paste it here. Paste in between those. Sorry. Copy it and you paste it in between those. I don't know if. Let me try and remember what do we call this symbol. Does anybody know the name of that symbol? I'm trying to remember. Does anybody know the name of that symbol? Let me try to remember. Yes, they call the apostrophe. Yes, the apostrophe symbol or quotation mark. Yes, quotation mark. Called the quotation mark. So in between the quotation mark, you put the web URL. So I want everybody to do that. Go to or any website you like. That's an exercise. Any website you like, you can get the web address of it. For example, google.com. You go over to this top bar to copy it. It starts with https :// then www. blah blah blah. That's called the web address. You copy it and you put in between this quotation mark. That's how you do it. Quotation mark, call the quotation mark. Google it. Quotation mark. Quotation mark is this too. So website URL. So that's what I want everybody to do. In between those quotation marks, you put a URL to any website. If you've done it, you can put an emoji signifying you've done it. Any emoji of your choice. And if you're having issues, please speak up so we can go through it together. I'll repeat it again. Medit Finemi. Ahmed, right? If you're having any issues, please speak up so you can. This class would have been very better if you had it physically, because things have been more smoothly. Alright, let's see. I said I will repeat it again. This is linked to youtube.com. You create an A tag. A tag represents a link. And to create a link element, you start with the opening part and the closing part. And in between there, you put the text, the content, like the name of the link you are going to. And you add an attribute of the web address you are going to. Now, this attribute, inside my attribute, I'm adding the web address of youtube.com because I want to go to youtube.com. So if you've done it, signify. Now, if you see something cool now, if you've done it, you can click. If you go to our website, like this place, where you're showing white background and everything, that's the web page you are creating. You click on it, you see. Why is it not connecting? Try. I think, why is this not correct? I'm sorry. Check something. I'm coming. Let me try to figure out why it's not. Okay. Let me see something. Alright, I hope you've done it. Now, currently we're having issues. Oh, somebody will be trying to enter. Now, I'll introduce another attribute now. Normally, we don't really need the attribute, but we have to add it because I think there's an issue with code pen. The attributes you have to add is, I want to add a target, we call it target attribute. So add and rewrite the name target equals to, into the, what do you call that symbol again? Forgotten. Quotation mark symbol. Put underscore blank. Okay, it should work now. Yes. So there are certain things you usually face when you're coding. There's always something that will go wrong. It's natural, it's normal. When you're, thank God is even showing when as we're doing it live so that you know that we're not magicians, we're not just doing anything from the sky. We research and I think sorry there's a problem with the platform where the code pen because it's hosted and it has an issue based on the platform that you can't use external links. It's how it works. But when we are working it locally, I'll show you I'll show you how it works. It's the same how you write it. I'm just trying to get I don't know why it's messing up. But let's move forward. And that's how you write a link. If you put it on another place it will work. This is how you write a link. I'll go over it again. You start with the opening tag, the closing tag. So the link element is represented with an E, and it has an attribute that has extra information. The extra information we're adding is the website URL or the website address. Alright. So let's move on to images. How to write an image in HTML. The image element. To write an image element, use the img tag. That's what we use to create an image element. Img tag. So the regular way of creating an opening tag, img. But this one is a bit different because this is a self-closing tag. The image is a self-closing tag. The image is a self-closing tag. Let's really check something. So now the image has an attribute. So it's in an attribute extra information for that element. The extra information we want to add for that for the image element is what's called src. It stands for source. That means the source of where you want or where the image is hosted or where the image is in your computer. And create an attribute equals to I said quotation mark, and in between the quotation mark you put whatever the URL you want. So let me try to get a URL for And if you don't want to like introduce this is the symbol, like the logo for HTML. If you've not seen before, this is the logo for HTML. Will be, I think we can get the link for that. Sorry. I want to put the link. I'm trying to copy the link, that's the issue. Sorry. Yeah. So that's how we put an image. What I just did, I just copied the URL of that image. So you can go to any image in the web on the internet. Let's say, for example, I use the HTML tag. You can use image of Nigeria flag, image of Nigerian flag. You copy the URL. Copy, I think right share. We're trying to, I don't know why it's not copying the link. Copy the URL. And you paste it between the practices of the source tag. Sure. Right, I'll quickly show you a website where you can get hosted pictures. I think it's called hosted pictures. You can use go. So you can search any image you want on Ingo. You can visit the web on Splash is a website where there are free images on the internet. Like that's where you can get free images. You can search for any image you want. Let me search for Nigeria. Nigeria. Oh, this thing is messing up. Share. Copy the link. Paste it. Sorry, I don't know. Having issues with getting images, but the main bone of contention is to create an image. You have the attributes and you put the URL of the hosted image. Let me try this website. And all I'm just trying to do, don't sorry for making you call. What I'm just trying to do is get free images on the internet we can use to also show on our image on our website. Let me use time is going. Let's be fast. I think we have to move on. I'm sorry. I can't just find an image I can use. So I've tested this in earlier. But let's go to another element. Now, the final element we'll be focusing on today is list, the list element. as the name implies, is to create a list of anything, list of items on a website, a list of items on a website. So, and to do that, this one is a bit different. To create a list on the web page, let me scroll down here. You use the UL tag. Well, there are two types of lists in HTML: the ordered list and an unordered list. An ordered list and an unordered list. An ordered list is represented with the OL tag, OL, and the unordered list is represented with UL tag. So, I'll be saying it from time to time. So you create your opening tag. Let's use the unordered list. You say UL and you close it up. Hope you're getting the hang of it now. The tag, the opening tag, you create the opening tag and closing tag. Down. This one is a bit different because we're going to be putting another element inside. Now to create a list, we have to use the list tag, the li tag, li, normal tag, li, opening and closing. Then put your content. Let me say a list of fruits, mango. So this is how you create it. You can see this is showing like a hyphen behind it because it's an unordered list. So I'll recap again. To create a list in HTML, there are two types. There's the unordered list and the ordered list. Currently, we are dealing with the unordered list, and inside the unordered list, you open the unordered list tag, opening and closing, and in between it, you put the list element. And to create a list element, put the list opening tag, your content, and the list closing tag. So you can create a list of different fruits, right? That's a apple. I'll be erasing all this so we can see it properly because it's taking up space. So if you can see properly now, apple, walnut, walnut a fruit, I don't even know. Watermelon. So this is how you create a list in HTML. An unordered list. Start with the opening, the UL tag, and inside it put an li element. And to create an li element, the list element, you use the li tag, opening, same way you create a normal tag. That's it. And this is what we call nesting an element. Inside the UL tag, the UL element, if I to say sorry, we nested the list element inside. That's how you create. These are you just create. You can nest elements in HTML to create things like this. So I'll go over it again. You have to create an unordered list. You have the UL, and inside it we nested the list elements. And to create a list element, use the li tag and our content inside. So let's create an ordered list. I mentioned there are two types of list: the unordered list and ordered list. And ordered list is very simple. Just start. The name of the tag for ordered list is OL. So we start again. Open the tag OL. /OL ordered list, and inside it we are nesting. We call nest. We put it because we want to put a list element inside the ordered list element. It's called nesting. How we call nesting. So inside it, we create same format we did with unordered list li. Nest and list. You nest a list element inside the ordered list element. Hope it's not sounding too confusing. So you can just put like five states in Nigeria: Abuja, Lagos, So these are the two types of lists we have. The difference between unordered list and ordered list is un- unordered doesn't have is represented with I call hyphen. So an ordered list is represented with number one, number two, number three. If you add another state, another list element of state, you can create li um, Kaduna. This is another, create another list element inside the ordered list element called nesting. Call it nesting. This is why I put an element inside another element. That that's everything about it. If you don't understand, you can put on the mic, see what you have to say. So I'll go over it again. We talked about the list elements. We have the unordered list and the ordered list. To create a list in HTML, we have unordered list and ordered list. And unordered list has this like dot dot dot. Doesn't have numbers, but ordered list is represented by numbers. So those are the common HTML elements we have. Majority of the things you'll be doing on is like so like the 50% of what you'll be using to create websites. So to recap, we first created the heading element. We used our name. We used to create an heading element, use the h1 tag and the content of it. To create a paragraph, we created a paragraph. To create a paragraph element, put the p tag and the content of it. Then we created a link. The link is not working because because of the platform where is a code pen. I think if there's still time at the end of the class, I'll quickly show you how to install VS Code. That would be better. That would be installed locally on computer. So this is what we called a link tag, link element, to link to other pages of the web, link to other websites. Then I introduce the image element. What you use for is to put image on web page, and I introduce you to the list element. That's for the unordered list element and the ordered list element. And inside those elements, you put the li element, the list element. You nest it into the unordered list element. Those are the basic things, basic common HTML elements you see and work with when you are creating a website in HTML. So I'll just quickly show you how to install VS Code, because that'll be nice. Like next, or I'll show you on my computer, and then after the class everybody can install it. I think that'll be okay. Alright, let me I'll come and I'll try to create something. God. Alright, so I'll be showing you an app. This is what we call Visual Studio Code, the text editor I talked about. Toward the end, at the end of the class, everybody will install it on their computer. So now, the common practice, like if you are creating HTML, I don't know if you can see it properly. Let me I'm trying to zoom in, sorry. Now I think she is quick. So to create an HTML locally on your computer, we usually do something called just like a normal text. Like you do the name of the HTML file you want to create, and you put the at the end of it, you put the dot and HTML. It's almost the same to like if you want to create a text file, you have like um let's see sc.text. Now this is a text file. Type anything here. The text file. But the difference between this text is the dot, the ending, call it the file extension. They call it the file extension. The dot blah 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 blah. Like for example, images you do like dot png, dot jpeg, dot. I think there are other formats. Those are called the file extension, file formats. And if in terms of video, you have like the dot mp4, dot mp something. Those are called like the file extensions. Those are common for videos. For music, we have it on like dot mp3. Those file extensions for music. Now for a website, we have what we call .html. It's an extension, file extension. We call it .html. That means you want to create an HTML file. Now, I'd like to show you something in the slides. Now, all this while I'll be creating a file of HTML on CodePen. We didn't need to do this common structure. There's a structure for how we create things in HTML. I don't know if you can see it properly. Yeah. This is the structure of what, just like how, almost similar to how you write a letter. You know, when you want to write a letter, you start with I think every second you write your address, my address, blah blah blah. Send writer address, receiver address, then the title of your let's see, letter to my friend or something like that. How we do it, letter to my friend. Don't know how I can put text. Letter to my friend. No, when you're writing letter, this is how you do something like this. You start with like your writer address. You the writer, your address will be here. You the sender's address, the title of the letter you're writing, and the contents, blah blah blah, wherever you're talking about to the person, what you want to say to your friend, the content. Now, what you should know, in English language, we call this the structure of a letter. It has the addresses, the letter, and the body. The heading of the letter and the body is something similar to how we do it in HTML. We have to create the heading. As you can see, if you look very cool, like I introduced the code. This is called the HTML element. This is the heading tag, head tag. It's different from heading. Sorry, this is head tag. Different from the heading tag for creating the heading of the website. This is the head tag. All this is just like the head of a web page. Then we have the body, similar to how we write our letters. We have the head and the body. What this head contains is like information of how the website should be, like the title. When you move forward, this is where you put your link to a link to your CSS file and JavaScript file. The heading contains extra information, just like your letter. When you're writing letter like that, this would be like your heading, like the major part, where you have the sender's address, writer's address, sender's address, and the heading of your letter. Similar to HTML, something similar. I'm just trying to give you that concept of how it works. So you have the heading of the HTML file and the body. You can see it. And how convenient, the name is the body tag. This it means represent the body of the element. So to create So you don't need to memorize all these things. As you work with it, you just get conversant with it. Or you can also Google it, the HTML starting structure. Any website you want to create, this is how you start it. You start it with what we call the doc type HTML. This is how you start every HTML file. Start with the doc type. Doc type. Start with this tag. Then you write the HTML. This means the HTML tag. This means this is the beginning of my HTML file. The HTML tag. Then you have, as you can see, there's a highlight here. I don't know if you can see it, because the HTML represents the root of an HTML document, not the starting of a document. Then you have what you call the head. This will contain the information. The head will contain information about the website you are creating, and finally we have the body, represented by the body tag, BOD. This is the major part of how to create the file structure. I'll go over it again. We have this called doc type. If there's a bit of history behind how the doc type of, of why we do that, but I won't really go over it. You can Google it. Then it starts the page of the web page with the HTML tag, with the HTML element. Sorry, and to create an HTML element, use the HTML tag. And I've been talking about creating a tag, the opening tag and the closing. This will be the opening tag. Sorry, opening tag and the closing tag. And similar to our list, when I showed you, I told you about nesting. That's putting another element inside another element. It's similar to what we are seeing here. We are putting the heading element inside the HTML elements. I can remove this thing again. Let me go over it again. This is the HTML element. We have the opening HTML tag, or HTML element, sorry, is the tag, the HTML tag. Opening part is the opening part, and the closing tag. Then inside, we want to put another element inside that we call nesting. Nest another element inside. And a common practice, this is the file structure. This is normally done in any website you see in the world. This is how it's done. Just like how we have a format for letter, the same format. The head, we call the head. We create the head element. The head element. And to create a head element, use the head tag. I'm sure you are seeing patterns in it. Everything about tags, elements, and attributes. Tags, elements, and attributes. So the head element, use the head tag and run that HED, head. Then you can also put another element again inside the HTML, nest it again. You put the body. The body element is represented by the BODY, the body tag. It's very close. That's what. Sorry, no, type it properly. Why is showing for me what you call autocomplete? Like, when you're typing in a message you want to send, or you are writing something on your chat app or something, maybe sometimes it completes it for you. It's similar in your text editor. It completes it for you automatically. That's why I say you just need to know how it's done. But when you're writing it out, to autocomplete everything for you. So to write the body, you start with the normal way of writing an element. You start with the opening tag. Sorry, name of the tag you want. That's the body tag. And autocompleted the phone is, let me read it, and the closing tag. Sorry, auto completing it for me. And this is our body elements. The head element and the body element. Now, in our head elements, we nest another element inside again, and we commonly nest a tag called an element called the meta element. What this means is, in the history of creating the website, there's always a file format called UTF-8. It's a bit of computer science stuff, but normally every HTML file will have this, the meta tag, the meta element, which forms the meta element, and it has attributes, char set, UTF, blah 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 blah. You don't really need to bother yourself about that, but it just the format of how you create the file structure. You create meta and the attributes, char set, and the UTF 8. So moving on, then we have below, you see we have the title. That's the title of every website or web page you go to. If you look very closely, every time on your computer, is if you go to a website, you see like uh, let me okay. You see like if I go to the title, what I'm just trying to say is the title, because it's a bit close. I'm highlighting it like the title of this website is Escalidro. The title of this website here is meet.google.com. That's what's usually the top here. What shows here is what we call the title. And to put the title there, we usually use the title tag. And to create the title element, you do ti. See how it names title. Name of the title element. To create the title element, the tag to create the title element is also named title. And you put the whatever name of the title you want. I'll put my first website. So those are the basic structure of how you create your website. This is the starter. Any website you are creating, this has everything. You start with the HTML element, you nest the head and the body, and inside the head you nest the meta element and the title element where you put your title. Then from there, in the body, you can start writing whatever you want. So the same thing, you can write a H1, start the heading. Well, what you wrote earlier, it will be. That is inside our body of the HTML element. We start writing whatever our content should be. And let me save it and show you what it will look like on the website, on the web browser. You can see it will be. After the class, I'll go through. I'll make sure everybody install the VS Code, the text editor, Visual Studio Code. That will help us write locally on our machine. Like, you don't need to use internet and all those things to make it work. You just do it locally on your computer. So same example we done before. Title, sorry, the heading, mistake, my bad. If I'm not confusing you, then we can create a paragraph. We create a paragraph element. Use the P tag. And to create, you start with the opening tag and the closing tag. What is happening here is auto completing it for me. The text editor it has a bit of intelligence. Whatever it costs, there are common things. You don't need to start typing one by one, or auto complete it for you. So inside the paragraph tag, create a paragraph of this is my website. Similar to exactly the same thing we've been doing before. If you can see it properly, let me zoom in. It is showing on my web page. So I just wanted to show you how things are done. Let me go over it again. This is the file structure of how you create every HTML file. Just like how you start a letter. If you want to write a letter, it's a common practice. You write your sender's address, your receiver's address, and the title of your address with the content, the body of the address. Similar, we have it in HTML. We have the heading, which will be like all the information of like addresses of things you need to. Maybe this is similar to like the sender's and receiver's address. And your body, this is the content of your web page, your website. Then write your content or whatever you want to do. So I think gone over it. If you have any questions, please you can ask. I said how to do it locally. I'll do it talk about that after the class. So I think we covered everything for today. So let me go a recap of everything again. We started almost on time. We started today by talking about how the internet works. We talked about concepts like the client and the server. I talked about how your client, everything like your phone, anything that has a web browser is called the client, the web browser. It can be your phone, your laptop, your television. I think there are smart televisions now. You can use the internet right there. Talked about your phone, laptop, your gadgets, your smartwatches. Those are your clients. And I talked about what we call a server. That is a computer in the internet that responds to every request. I talked about a concept called a request. That means you're asking for files, and the major files you ask for is the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I talked about the domain name system, the DNS. That is like the what is that? That is this is what we call our DNS, like web address, domain name system, the web address. And what it does is it represents our IP address. An IP address is like I think nine numbers with dots. This is an example of like an IP address. That every device I talked about how every device has an IP address, and every device connected to the internet has an IP address. Talked about we talked about how the client talks to the server and returns the three major files for it to show the website, the HTML, the CSS, JavaScript. So those are the major things. I implore everybody to try and watch that video. It explains it very well of how the internet works. These are the basic things usually. When you know them, you have be more clarity of how things work on the internet. Talk about introduction. All we're doing in web development is just creating website and web applications for people to be able to use through the internet. And I also talked about the types of web development we commonly found in commonly find in the field. Talk about the front end and the back end, and our focus in this book is the front end development part. And I said the front end is focused on programming for the clients. That is programming website and web application that shows on the browser. That's what your job as a front end is to do. And also you create web applications that talk to the server. And when you talk to the server, you return some information you need to render on your website or web page. Talk about the job or the responsibilities for both fields, the front end and the back end. And I also talk about a title called full stack development, where you engage in the first part where a person can do the both parts, the front end and the back end, master of all. And I talked about the process involved in developing a website, but I still have time for the meeting. I talked about the process of developing the website. Talk about the initial start with planning. Anything like you have to do, you have to always plan and plan and plan and plan. Talk about you want to create a website, you plan. You start with what the purpose of what the website is, target audience, how the website should look, and usually the person involved in like creating the wireframe, or we call it wireframe. They're like, if when you want to build a house, they are always the architects that will sketch out the diagrams of how the website will look like. The same thing with creating a website, and the architects now are field just like the UI UX designers responsible for creating like a wireframe, a mock-up of how the website should look. And also as a job, our job as a front-end developer is to get those designs, like the wireframes or the blueprints of how the website should look, and we code it up with our three major languages: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And and we talked about the development phase as the process of us creating the website. Talked about testing. Now, after you finish um, programming the website, you have to test it, and also talk about deployment. Deployment just a process of putting it to the internet, and so that everybody can use it on their have access to it through their web browser. Talk about how there's always continuous maintenance and updates in the field of software development. As we make continuous maintenance and updates. Once you finish creating the software, that's not the end. There's always maintenance, um, bug fixes, improvements. I gave example of how recently on WhatsApp before on the person's profile picture, if you've not seen, I'm sure you might have seen it. it an old WhatsApp like maybe like 3 months ago, there was no feature like that. Or currently, there's a feature where if somebody posts a status, you already see like a blue, I think a blue ring around their profile picture. That was a recent update, a recent improvement to the WhatsApp platform. But I'll talk about updates. Um, talk about the tools. After the class, I will share links of how, or not even, you just to install Visual Studio Code. Just visit their website. Just Google it, Visual Studio Code. Go to and go to download. That's all. They select the operating system you need. Just like how normal how you install regular software on computer and install it. Click on if you are using Windows, you click on it. If you are using Linux, you click on it, download it, and that's how you settle. There are YouTube tutorials on how to do it, so that shouldn't be an issue. If you have any issues, you can always visit YouTube. You can also go YouTube find it how to install Visual Studio Code. We'll talk about CodePen and online text editor. The reason we use CodePen is because I wanted it to be easy, and when I'm giving you assignments, it's on CodePen. You'll be writing it so that you'll be able to share the link of the work you've done. That's why we're using CodePen. So I talked about which I introduced HTML to you. As I said, it's the markup language. The markup means that's annotations and symbols that have special meaning of how things should work on the website. We introduced a concept called tags. I introduced the list tag, the heading tag, the link tag, the image tag, which is the IMG, the A tag, that's for links. Talk about the P stands for paragraphs, the P tag. All these are the annotations for HTML. They have special meaning of how things should be, how content should be laid out on an HTML file. We talk about the major terms, the HTML terms, the tags, the elements and attributes. And as I said, we have the tag and an element is the opening tag, the contents and the closing tag that forms an element. Opening tag, that is the opening tag, the closing tag and the content together refer to it as an element. This is the H tag, this is the P tag, the A tag, the image tag. This has purpose for creating headings, paragraphs, links, images. I also talk about another aspect of tags for creating lists, the unordered list and the ordered list. I've explained this. The opening tag, this we call an element. Sorry. Opening tag, closing tag, the content of what is between them. All together we refer to them as an element. We've gone over this common HTML element, the heading, the paragraph, links, images, and lists. And we talked about the file structure of how things should work. If you want to any website you want to create, this is how you start. You start with the file structure, the HTML, the head, and the body. In the body is where you put all the content of the web page, where everything here we are saying. All these things belong to the body. One thing that you might not say, I'm sure you might be asking, where is all those HTML file structure? Why is it not here on CodePen? What CodePen automatically does for us is that you don't need to put all those parts. So you just start directly with your body. what you want to be inside your body, all these things, what you want to be showing on your website. Then to start setting up this heading, title, meta, just start directly with the body of what you want to write. But if as we move on, if you want to do it, but if you want to do it on your Visual Studio Code as your editor, you have to use this format. You have to use the format. Now, and talk about additional resources. Now, I want to quickly show you how the link style works. Like link it to somewhere. Let me create a link tag. Why it wasn't working on href, I think it's https www.google.com as link to Google. Sorry. Link to Google, and if I click it, you see I'm taking to Google. That's what the link tag does. It links to other websites or other parts of your own website. That's the link tag. There was an issue with CodePen because CodePen is an online editor, and there are some security concerns about using links and going to other websites. So that's why it wasn't working. But if you do it on your own computer, it will work. You can see it goes to linkgoogle.com. No, or you could even go to, let me change the content of my element to say link to YouTube. This is just like the description of what our text should be. And it's youtube.com. It's the URL of YouTube. The URL, the website address of YouTube. And if I click on it, it should take me to youtube.com. That's how it does. So I think those are the major things. Covered quite a lot. So I think if you have any questions, I'm all yours. If you have any questions, the floor is yours. You can make a request, any question you have. Whatever you don't understand, you can say it. If you are shy to talk put it on the chat box. Oh, okay. Seems like nobody has question. Well, if you understand what I'll be saying, reply with an emoji. Ah. If you understand what I'll be saying, reply with an emoji. Alright, we're having responses. Yeah, no, Ayola. Alright. Alright, I really appreciate all of you for coming. Today was our first class, our first week. I know this is a lot of theory and information I've just bombarded into you, but with time you just get conversant with it. After this call, I will set up exercises you have to do. I think our next class will be on Monday, and I will have to I will have to also prepare material for that, but I don't want you to forget everything we've learned again this week. They'll come back on Monday and say, oh, I've forgotten everything. So I'll give you exercises at least for today and tomorrow. And one more thing. Let me show you something. Another reason I talked about using CodePen so you can be able to share what you've done. So to share what you've done, you'll be like, sorry, let me reduce this more. To share your work, what you do is I want to show you how to share, like when I give assignment, how you save it, like how you share with me so I can be able to look at what you've done. So yeah, if you look at the bottom corner here, the be hidden, me zoom in some more. If you look at the bottom corner here, bottom right, you see a share button. So say share on, give options, share on. See the option share on Facebook, Twitter, share on there. So you just copy the link, and for example, if I paste it here, everybody able to see what I've done. So that's how you do it. When I give an assignment, you just come over here. When you are done, go to the bottom right, click on the share button, copy the link, and be able to visit what the person has done. So if I go to, I'll be able to see what I've done. Yeah, so that's I think that's the end of the first class. Had fun today. We wrote our first code, and yeah, we have a long journey ahead, but it's going to be a fun one. Alright, I think that'll just be the end of the class. I'll see people in the Slack group communicating. If you have any question or anything, mention it in the Slack group so we can communicate together. Alright, I think that's the end of this meeting. See you in the next one. Bye. Thank you, Ola. Bye. See you later. God, I'm sweating. Jesus Christ.
Over.